Save it. The falsehoods, the feelings of fault.
Then, the funds. Learn how to save for your retirement at wesaysaveit.org.
I'm Josh Robin. Here's your Spectrum News in 90. President-elect Donald Trump meets with President Joe Biden. Biden welcomed Trump to the White House for a visit which is seen as a tradition between the sitting president and the president-elect. In 2020, Trump didn't accept the results of his election loss and didn't invite Biden to the Oval Office. And Melania Trump isn't meeting with Dr. Jill Biden at the White House. The sitting and future spouses also hold a traditional meeting, but Melania Trump declined. Senator John Thune has been elected the Republican leader in the Senate. The South Dakota lawmaker beat out Rick Scott and John Cornyn for the position. Thune succeeds Mitch McConnell, who served in the position for 18 years. Senators described the voting process today as energetic, though some Republicans aligned with Trump were against Thune. Thune is currently the #2 leader in the Senate. Questions are swirling around the Pentagon after Trump announced his selection for Secretary of Defense. Trump chose Fox News host Pete Hegseth for his defense secretary. Critics say that Hegseth is not qualified to lead the world's largest military. Hegseth is against programs promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion, and questions the role of women in combat. And the Consumer Price Index report is out. The numbers show inflation rose slightly last month. Consumer prices went up 2.6% from last year and up 0.2% from the month before. Those are your headlines. Now here's your weather on the ones.
Hello, everyone. Meteorologist Scott Dean. As we're tracking a couple of systems over the lower 48, one moving through the Midwest into the deep south with some showers and a few thunderstorms. Also looking at a storm across the Pacific Northwest with a good chance for showers and thunderstorms. Shower chances will continue Chicago, Memphis, down towards New Orleans. Pleasant weather along the East Coast with temperatures cool in the 50s. The active weather continues in the Pacific Northwest with a good chance for showers over towards Seattle with temperatures in the 50s.
Donald Trump returns to Washington, D.C. and appears in the Oval Office for the first time in 4 years. Good day, I'm Josh Robin, and you're watching Spectrum News. The president-elect was welcomed back to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue by his ex-rival turned successor and soon-to-be predecessor, President Joe Biden. The First Lady also welcoming the president-elect, and we're told that Jill Biden handed Trump a note for Melania Trump, who was not in attendance today. The meeting was part of a busy day in the nation's capital for the president-elect. He also met with Republican lawmakers on Capitol Hill as the House and Senate GOP begin voting on their new leaders. Trump said he was proud of the numbers posted in this election, though he took liberties with his margins of victory.
We won the majority by 7.1 million. We won, which is great, because Republicans aren't supposed to be winning the majority, Marjorie. You know that, right? And we won that, and we won it every way, all 7 swing states by a lot.
And our Taylor Popolars is at the White House. Taylor, the press wasn't allowed in for too long, but what's your read? How did this meeting go between these former rivals, especially considering that Trump didn't offer the same meeting to then President-elect Biden 4 years ago?
Yeah, I think that's what stood out most, just the fact that Trump did not afford Biden the same courtesy 4 years ago. And Biden, who's a very kind of institutionalist political figure, is resorting to tradition, and his staff has indicated he wants to make a show of that. So as you mentioned, the press only had very limited access to the start of this meeting. We're not sure what they're actually just discussing behind closed doors. But this is a brief kind of exchange that President-elect Trump had with President Biden, just to give you a taste of what it was like.
Politics is tough. It's in many cases not a very nice world, but it is a nice world today, and I appreciate very much a transition that's so smooth. It'll be as smooth as it can get, and I very much appreciate that, Jim. You're welcome.
And Josh, you heard Trump there just talk about how today is a great day. And what we've seen over the years covering Trump is that when things are going his way, he's happy to take part in kind of the pomp and celebration and the tradition. But when things don't go his way, a la 4 years ago, he refused to meet with Biden. He did not attend Biden's inauguration. A lot of the traditional courtesies were not afforded. So that was an interesting glimpse of this, just for this behind the scenes moment.
And was the vice president there? Did you see Kamala Harris?
So she was not. A lot of her staff, the Eisenhower Executive Office building is just off camera, and that's where a lot of her staff works. And many of them have been gathered outside on the steps trying to get a glimpse of everything. But we know the vice president is here in Washington, but she has nothing public on her schedule today. She's obviously been keeping a lower profile since losing the election last week, but we believe that she was involved in this meeting.
Okay, our Taylor Popolars is at the White House. Taylor, thanks a lot. President-elect Donald Trump is making major moves in his new administration by adding more loyalists to his cabinet. He's nominated Pete Hegseth as Secretary of Defense. Hegseth is a Fox News host and Army veteran. Some are questioning his qualifications to lead America's armed forces. Trump has also named John Ratcliffe as the director of the CIA. He's a former congressman from Texas who served as the director of national intelligence from 2020 to 2021. And Trump has also nominated Mike Huckabee to be the ambassador to Israel. Huckabee is a former governor of Arkansas and the father of Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who is the current governor of that state, who also served as White House press secretary during Trump's first term. Huckabee is a strong defender of Israel's war against Hamas and has advocated against a ceasefire deal between the two. And Spectrum's Angie Gonzalez has more on Pete Hegseth, who could soon leave the Pentagon after a career in cable news.
President-elect Donald Trump's announcement naming Fox News host Pete Hegseth as his nominee for defense secretary is being met with a mixed response in Washington. Some Republicans were quick to defend the Army National Guard captain against criticism about Hegseth's qualifications to lead the world's largest.
Good day, I'm Josh Robin. You're watching a Spectrum News special report. Senator John Thune was just elected as the new Republican leader of the U.S. Senate. He is addressing reporters right now. Let's listen in.
New day in the United States Senate, and it's a new day in America. The American people have loudly rejected the failed policies of the Biden-Harris-Schumer agenda. And this Republican team is united. We are on one team. We are excited to reclaim the majority and to get to work with our colleagues in the House to enact President Trump's agenda. We have a mandate from the American people, a mandate not only to clean up the mess left by the Biden-Harris-Schumer agenda, but also to deliver on President Trump's priorities. We will make sure that the President and his team have the tools and the support that they need to enforce border security laws and to remove the violent criminals who are wreaking havoc in every one of our states. We will work to make America prosperous again by streamlining the bureaucratic machine and overturning costly Biden-Harris regulations. And we will work to restore American energy dominance. Not just our energy security, but energy dominance, which will lower costs and bolster our national security. I'm excited to get to work with this team right away. And I want to thank my colleagues who placed their faith in me to serve as leader, and to those who were supporting another candidate. I promise to be a leader who serves the entire Republican conference. We will have an ambitious agenda, and we'll take each and every Republican working together to be successful. With that, I want to turn things over to Senator John Barrasso, the newly elected Republican whip.
Thank you. On election night, America saw the remaking of the Republican Party for the better. This election was about the answering to the question of, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? And the American people said no. Only 1 in 4 Americans thought that the country was heading in the right direction. And you've seen the Republican Party grow in terms of hardworking middle-class families, in terms of minorities, in terms of young people, in terms of families struggling to get by. In the last 3 weeks before the election, I was all over the country with President Trump, with J.D. Vance, as well as a number of our Senate candidates. One of the stories that stuck with me was a woman in Michigan who talked about the fact that she was embarrassed to let her husband know that she had to go to the local food bank in order to get by. Republicans listened to those stories. Democrats were focused on President Trump. Republicans were focused on the needs of the American people, people who wanted to get prices down, wanted to secure the border, wanted us to unleash American energy, people wanted to make America look and be strong once again around the world. That's what the Republicans listened to, that's what we're responding to, and we are now working together to make sure we can put America back on track.
The newly elected Republican Conference Chair is the Senator from Arkansas, Senator Tom Cotton.
Thank you, Senator Thune. I'm looking forward to working with Senator Thune and the rest of this leadership team. I'm very grateful for the confidence that my peers placed in me. We all remember what it was like when President Trump was in office and we had Republicans in charge of the Senate. We had low prices, we had high wages, we had a secure border, we had a strong military, we had a peaceful, stable world. Starting on January 3rd, that's what we'll all be working to build again with President Trump, with Mike Johnson and the rest of the House Republicans on behalf of the American people. Thank you all.
Thanks, Tom. The newly elected Republican Policy Chair is the Senator from West Virginia, Senator Shelley Moore Capito.
Thank you, and congratulations to our new leader, John Thune. He will be a strong voice, as he has been in the past, as the whip, and I look forward to serving with him and with all of our leadership team. I want to thank the others that ran. We had a really strong, healthy discussion, and we've all come out united and friends. And one of the people that was in our discussion is one of the people that is going to, although he didn't say anything, his presence was very much felt, and that is the Vice President-elect, J.D. Vance. I think the fact that he not only was a voting member of our conference, but also in there with us every step of the way to make sure that the direction that we're going to go as a united conference, and with me leading the policy issues and all of us working together, that we're going to have a united voice. And I'll say one thing about the election. I've said this on all my local stations. What I think the biggest issue was, and there are big ones, border and national security and others, it is literally the American family, the mom and the dad, the grandmother, whoever it is, going to the grocery store. We do it all the time, every week, and we could see, all of us could see, the escalating costs of something so very basic to us, just the cost of food, and hearing from the Vice President in her campaign, the economy's doing great, don't worry. And so we hear those voices, we hear them loud and clear, and those are the voices that we're going to respond to, along with President Trump, through the next several years.
Thanks, Shelley. The newly elected Senate Republican Conference Vice Chair is the Senator from Oklahoma, Senator James Lankford.
Hey, congratulations to John Thune. We're looking forward to his great leadership there. Republicans were asked a very simple thing. Can you get us back on track? Over 70% of the country right now believes the country is on the wrong track. Our task is going to be very, very simple: to defend our values, to be able to strengthen us as a nation, and to be able to bring prosperity to people that are really struggling right now. That's a primary issue for us, and all of those things are things that we're going to get onto immediately, because the American people have spoken and said we do not like the direction that the country is going, so let's get us back on a better direction. So this leadership team, President Trump, J.D. Vance, we're headed in a direction to be able to get the country back on the track that she is looking for.
Thanks, James. And the newly elected chairman of the Senate National Republican Senatorial Committee chair is the senator from South Carolina, and he is already planning on expanding our majority in 2026. So, Senator Tim Scott.
Hey, brother. Without any question, President Trump set out to make sure that Americans felt like this country and the American dream was alive and well and there for them. From the border to fixing the economy, to solving the issue of crime and restoring confidence on the global stage, President Trump has been very clear on his agenda. Our goal with our leader, John Thune, is to make sure that we achieve those objectives. My passion is making sure that we defend our current seats and expand the map and expand our majority so that President Trump does not have 2 years with a Republican majority in the Senate, and he has 4 years in control of making sure that America's agenda comes home to each and every household.
Thanks, Tim. A couple quick questions.
Do you have any concerns about President Trump's cabinet picks so far, and what advice will you give him when it comes to choosing nominees who will pass Senate confirmation?
Well, as you know, the Senate has an advise and consent role under the Constitution, so we will do everything we can to process his noms quickly, get them installed in their position so they can begin to implement his agenda.
Leader Thune, you said that recess appointments are on the table. That's a key demand from President-elect Donald Trump. Will you move forward with that?
Well, what we're going to do is make sure that we are processing his nominees in a way that gets them into those positions so they can implement his agenda. How that happens remains to be seen. You know, obviously, we want to make sure our committees have confirmation hearings like they typically do, and that these nominees report it out to the floor. But I've said this, and I mean it, that we expect a level of cooperation from the Democrats to work with us to get these folks installed. And obviously, we're going to look at explore all options to make sure that they get moved and that they get moved quickly.
Will the legislative filibuster remain unchanged under your tenure?
Yes.
How do you intend to balance maintaining the independence of the Senate with passing the president-elect's agenda?
Well, I mean, the Senate, as you know, is by the founders' design, a place where the minority has a voice in our process, and we will do the job that the founders intended us to do in the United States Senate, and that the American people intend us to do. And that, right now, after this mandate election coming out of the American people, is to work with this president on an agenda that unwinds a lot of the damage of the Biden-Harris-Schumer agenda and puts in place new policies that will move our country forward in a different direction.
Well, you just heard the incoming Senate Majority Leader John Thune give his first remarks since his colleagues voted him into the spot. He and other members elected to the GOP leadership talked about their agenda for the new term, from more fuel production to lowering costs to deporting undocumented immigrants. Let me bring in briefly our Washington, D.C. reporter, Harry Lee. Harry, what struck out to you about what Thune and his colleagues there said, particularly Thune?
Well, the first thing that sticks out